Going back in time with the secrets of the debt clock revealed with the next two messages about the Knights Templar, the safekeeping, and the scam. Let's explore! Yes, indeed. Using the Wayback Machine, we're able to capture some of the earlier messages from the U.S. debt clock. And one of the fascinating aspects of this is we can see just how fast the debt is growing from one message to the next. As we look at the messages that they send us, as I try to keep up with it, this is a new playlist and a new series on the channel. Let me know what your thoughts are about this series and if you are enjoying it, or if you think it's too much. Trying to play catch up with getting some of these earlier messages that I missed here, so there likely might be a lot of videos to play catch up here, but I'm going to do these in pairs here. So this new pair is about the Knights Templar and about money creation and what it's really about. So let's get into this. But before we do this message, as you can see here, we can see where the national debt was during that time in late October, 33.572. Now we're at getting very, very close to $34 trillion as of the recording of this video. So let's get into this message. Knights Templar. This is a message from the debt clock people, and they give us these messages every couple of days, and they expire. And unless they're captured by the Wayback Machine, well, they're gone forever. But I figured I'm doing this in a video form so that you can have these for easy reference if you want to see what the messages that they are sending us here. And these two, I think, are quite important and interesting because it talks about paper money, paper receipts for gold. And in a sense, this is one could consider an argument against a gold standard of sorts. But nonetheless, let's see exactly what this controversial message is. The Knights Templar for safekeeping. And it's a conversation. This is the first one that has a conversation between two entities here in the cartoon. We have an individual asking the Knights Templar, who began some of the, fractional reserve banking. It says, "Thank you for protecting us on our journey to the Holy Land." This is the statement asked to the individual for the Knights Templar. And he says, "Well, can I interest you in any banking services?" And then the questioner asks, "Well, I don't understand. What's that?" And then it's explained by the Knights Templar. You give us your gold and we deposit it in one of our vaults for safekeeping and give you a paper receipt. And the thing is to me, to some extent, that can be related to what's going on today with the banks and safe deposit boxes, as your gold is not FDIC insured. And I can understand people wanting to do that. It is a safe place to some extent, but not a guaranteed safety for your gold in a safe deposit box today. But nonetheless, this is kind of how the gold standard started to some degree, right? Anyways, he goes on to say in this that, or he's questioned by the individual, says, "That doesn't sound like a fair trade." And then the Knights Templar responds with, "Oh yes, you can use the paper receipts as money and trade them for goods and services." Well, that sounds good and convenient, right? But then the question is asked, well, what happens if everyone wants to redeem their paper for gold at the same time? Because that's what it's about, right? You want to be able to redeem your gold for paper, or redeem your paper for gold. Have that freedom to do so. But then he says, well, if that happens, well, we'll just move to the next town and start the same process over again. Yes, indeed. So if they bankrupt in that town, people don't have faith in it, and everybody wants their gold out, well, the bank crashes and we'll just take the scheme to the next town. And then the thought process from the individual is as well, gold, it does not equal paper. They are not equal by any measure. And this is a strong and powerful message, because when you have something like a gold standard where it's redeemable by gold, that means that it can be just done away with if people lose faith in the process, because their gold cannot and should not be denied. Now, look at where we're at today. We went from a gold standard to a dissociation from gold, starting with the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, where nations could trade for dollars, which were then redeemable for gold. But they put an extra barrier, and that barrier was the dollar. And then in 1971, President Nixon removed us from the gold standard immediately, closed that gold window. It was the final nail in the coffin, which began the advent of the pure fiat system. But keep in mind, for most of the time, between then 1913 and 1971, there was the Federal Reserve System, which was chipping away at the convertibility from the dollar to gold. That's why we had Federal Reserve notes instead of U.S. notes, and silver certificates that could be issued, because we were still on that gold standard, at least to some extent. Now that is all gone. But at least now we can own gold, or we can convert our paper for gold by going to a bullion dealer or your local coin shop. And many of us are taking advantage of doing that, and that has begun the advent of stacking, silver and gold stacking. And that's what we do. We declare independence for doing that. Why? Well, because of this message that occurred after, $33.67 trillion, which was up from this time. And this just a couple of days later, you can see how much the debt has increased then. And then we get this message here, and that is indeed the case here. But we've got this secret window that says, money creation is a scam only a wizard could love. Now, this is a precursor to the other message we saw in relation to the Wizard of Oz. My guess is we probably have not seen the last of these inferences to the Wizard of Oz from the debt USDebtClock.org folks. Here you can see the Tin Man talking about money creation is a scam. And he's on the yellow brick road, which assume that means gold bars are gold. And of course, it looked like bricks there, yellow brick road. And that is leading towards the Emerald City. Notice it's green, emerald. And could that be an accumulation or a message or a comparison, an allegory for greenbacks, which were created by Lincoln? And now we have Federal Reserve notes, and here we are. Money creation is a scam that only a wizard could love. The wizard pulls the levers from behind the scenes, and behind the curtain is a very small, timid man with a big voice that booms out. But in reality, it's just a ruse, and that's exactly what fractional reserve banking is. And when you think about it, money, sound money, is never really created. It's just packaged differently. In other words, you have ore in the ground, and it's pulled out of the ground as ore in the form of gold and silver to some extent, and then it's reconstituted and purified and refined. Really, that's technically not a creation. It's just a recomposition of gold into a compact form that is pure and refined. Money, sound money, is never, ever created. And so this is why I like that this choice of language here, because the money, which is a dollar bill, which is a Federal Reserve note, is indeed money. But it is unsound money. It is a money that is a store of value that is declining at a rate that, even though it is uncomfortable for us, we still hold these dollars and use them. We have not lost faith in fiat currency. No one has. Even the most ardent gold and silver stackers has lost complete faith in them. Now we have more faith. That's right. We have more faith in gold and silver, which is why we accumulate them, which is why we trade these for this. That's right. We unsound money for sound money. And that's the thing. And I think that's why this message is so important, including the language of it, because it is a scam. It's using, and they can manipulate the currencies, and they're doing that. They've done that since the first round of quantitative easing. And in reality, it's happened even long before that. because ever since the Fed has set the target inflation rate at 2%. In other words, the dollar is destined to decline and eventually fail to the point where it will have to be reset because it's lost over 98% of its value since 1913. So those are your messages from the Debt Clock in this next installment. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to listen, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.